Welcome back to Super Mario Brothers. So now we're doing World 5-1.
Continues.
Yes, World 5-1. So the second half of the game is where the game starts stepping up in terms of its difficulty.
It's a relatively simple concept. First half is fine, eases you in, so it can prep you for the second half where things start to get complicated, but not necessarily unfair.
In general, compared to what came after this game is relatively fine. Not super easy, but, you know, serviceable, you know.
I mean, how many really, really easy NES games were there at the point?
Let me think. I'm sure there was at least one.
That's the, see the thing is...
I'm wondering if Kirby was actually made as a response to how Nintendo games were kind of infamous for being pretty difficult.
Well, actually, according to Sakurai, Sakurai said he wanted to make a game that anybody could play, like even like not necessarily gamers. Like so, Kirby was always meant by Sakurai to be an easy franchise from the get-go. So that was the original idea. As for this, as for the whole NES thing, the thing is this is something that not a lot of people talk about, but so allow me to bring it up. The thing about the NES difficulty thing is that, believe it or not, most of the time wasn't so much because of in developer choice. And don't get me wrong, there were developers who genuinely wanted to make their games super hard. However, a lot of times it was actually done to prevent rentals, because renting video games, I don't know if they've changed that since then, but back in the NES era, renting video games was actually illegal. However, the rental market for video games was rampant at the time in America. So developers at the time were told by executives to make the game supremely hard to make sure it wouldn't be beaten in one sitting or one weekend. That's why the Japanese version of Battletoads is much easier than the one we got. And there's which is interesting. I guess Nintendo had the different mentality, because again, you'd think they would take advantage of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels on the NES again to once again make sure people buy the game and not just rent it. But
I get the feeling that some sane soul thought, look, guys, I know why we do the things we do, but we can't unleash this upon the Gaijin.
The first Echo Dolphin was done using these thought process, as Johnny said.
Again, it was a case where eventually developers started doing that, especially considering how games were starting to elongate when we got to stuff like the PS1 and PS2 era. So it came to a point where there was nothing they could do, and like the game, not to mention the games were starting to become genuinely longer and bigger in content and scale. So games were always going to take a long time to beat and not be able to be beaten over a weekend. So it got to a point.
It's funny.
Yes.
It's funny because nowadays in some local libraries here you can actually borrow a game.
In fact, now that I think about it, probably that also probably was a contributor to the non-localizations of Final Fantasy 2 and 3 at the time, probably because RPGs, of course, take a long time to beat anyway. So they're not so well. Okay, you can say that because those RPGs were they could be very difficult.
The first Final Fantasy also had a rather poultry kind of translation anyway, so I chalk it up also to Square not having, you know, the major capabilities back then on translating games.
So yeah, that was actually the primary reason why a lot of that stuff happened. Like I said, if you actually take a look at the Japanese versions of some of these NES games, you'll actually notice. Okay, tell you a question: do you know anything about the Japanese versions of Ghosts and Goblins? Because maybe those are easier than the Western ones.
Not that I do know. The one that I had the disgrace of marathoning was an American copy of a copy of the American version all those years ago.
All right.
God.
Not a fan.
No, not that, Jova. Let me tell you again. I decided to do the stupidest thing. Oh, it was like the stupidest thing, and try to marathon it on a Halloween night because I had nothing better to do. Like,
oh dear. Well, did you?
The rumors are true. Like I'll tell you this just as a heads up, because I eventually plan on trying to showcase the game in some kind of fashion, but I want to give you the full scope in how the nightmare settles in. The first couple levels are actually still manageable. Actually, believe it or not, despite the fact that the difficulty bar is set already to a medium to high level from the get-go. No, it's like what Johnny said. It's the level 5 and 6 who are basically there to be as asshole-ish as it can. Also with the arbitrary restriction of you need to get the shield and beat quote-unquote Satan with it.
Yeah. As for...
And then you have to beat the whole game again anyway.
Yeah. As for the graphics of the game, much like Some Call Me Johnny said in his old review from back in the day, the graphics, of course, look very basic and primitive by today's standards. However, there's just, again, probably because of their iconic nature in pop culture nowadays, but there's just something incredibly charming about how the game looks to me, because...
Keep in mind also, when this game first came out, this was probably considered state-of-the-art. Like, people thought, wow, this graphics are amazing.
Okay.
Remember, that was actually one of the primary big reasons why the first King's Quest was a gigantic success in computers, because it was the first adventure game to have proper graphics that really created a world for you to explore.
Mm-hmm. Also, I loved how you were showcasing that you can actually be right next to the piranha plants. You only get hurt if you actually jump on top of them.
Yeah, speaking of which, what does the manual have to say about the piranha plants?
Let me check. Well, that's the thing. Might as well explain something about the tubes. Whenever there's a piranha flower in a tube, if you allow the piranha flower to go back into the tube and jump on the tube, the piranha flower will not go up until you leave that tube. So basically,
it's very considerate.
So yeah, Miyamoto and his team were considerate of that, at least.
That is until we get the red piranha plants.
Indeed. Okay, so the piranha plants. Man-eating plants that live in the flower pots. They show their faces quickly and without warning, so watch out. You can't kill them by jumping on top of them. So basically, every time there's an enemy that can't be killed by jumping on top of them, the manual will tell you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the busy beetle, quite a toughie. Fireballs don't even phase him, meaning basically the only real way to kill a buzzy beetle is to either jump on him and make him go towards a chasm, or use a Koopa Troopa or another busy beetle to topple him, basically. They're the hardest mooks in the game. And that's basically it. As for, might as well, since we're talking about the manual, might as well talk about, okay, because I actually did want to correct myself from the previous part. It's actually been a while since I've read this manual, actually. Apparently, yes, the Bowser name was already here in the US manual, right here. It says right here, Bowser, King of the Koopa. The Sorcerer King... Oh, so, okay, so there you go. In the American version, he's called...
Did you just use a moon jump?
Yes.
Been there since the halfway point, Jova.
I've been using it a bit for the sake of making things a bit easier on me. But the point is, also, it says Bowser, King of Koopa, and he's the Sorcerer King. So in the Japanese version, he's the Demon King. In the Western version, he's the Sorcerer King. Okay.
It's also true
Can't
that...
involve demons in my Christian Nintendo game.
Well, not showcasing it, as much as you think. It's mostly relegated to the comics. Bowser can possess sometimes magical powers.
Oh god, he has hammers now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And it was a
bloober.
A bloober, yeah, I forgot the name.
Blooper.
According to the American manual, Job, it says bloober. B-L, 2 O's, and B-E-R, bloober. Chases stubbornly after Mario, a guy to look out for. You can't kill him by giant... Okay, fine. So yeah,
will learn how to use guns.
The point is, the Bowser is the king of the Koopa, the Sorcerer King holding Princess Toadstool captive in the last castle. He comes at you spitting fire. There are several ways to kill him, but you only get points if you use fireballs. Yes.
I'm guessing you have a no-hit sheet on you, because...
Yes, I do.
I was wondering why you were next to the piranha plant and not getting hurt by it.
Yes, I do. Where was I? Got lost. Okay, here it is. What? Princess Toadstool, in the American manual, doesn't have a picture. She instead has a question mark, so I guess they wanted to keep it a mystery what Princess Toadstool looks like.
Yes, you're building up to all this shock and anticipation.
Princess of the Mushroom Kingdom. She is the only one who can break the spell of the evil Koopa King.
Okay.
I guess that pisses off
Something
Dedge.
wrong?
What?
Okay, that awakened something in Deji.
Clearly.
Have I missed something?
Not really.
I beg my table.
Something about something awakening in Deji, I heard.
Basically,
Daisy is not in this game yet.
not, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's going to be for another 4 years.
But yeah, the basic point is, Bowser is the Demon King or the Sorcerer King, depending on region.
So later that will have the Kamek troops.
Let me see what else they say. Yeah, so let's take a look at what the Japanese manual says about the Goombas. First up, the Kuribo/Goomba. Yeah, so the Japanese name is Kuribo.
That's, if in case you're wondering, because, same name of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster, it's basically, if I recall correctly, a term to describe the type of chestnut.
Okay, then. In Japanese, the description says, an evil mushroom that betrayed the Mushroom Kingdom. Once stomped and it disappears. Okay. Basically the same as the American version. The Japanese version, however, mentions that they're evil, but that's not the big issue here. The main thing is that the American version says stomp and it dies. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, the manual of this game in the America says the word death, which you might remember at the time, Nintendo of America used to be very censorship trigger happy with the whole death and religion thing. So I'm surprised that they let this one slip.
Well, Nintendo kind of went a bit back and forth on it, especially since eventually they just threw up their hands and went, you know what? We may be for kids, but we gotta allow death to be a thing.
Oh, sure.
Especially with the Metroid series.
Oh, sure, I understand that, but back in the... I understand that, but back in the NES era, they were, remember, they didn't even just NES era, remember, like, Waterland 2 had bottles of wine replaced with balls, so they were still doing it here and there.
I'm not too surprised, like, apparently the wine thing was an iffy thing even for the Japanese devs, like, because, Japan, like, Japanese folk, they're okay with unbelievable amounts of violence, swearing, and sex.
But drinking,
alcohol is something that
no.
they tend to be iffy on.
Same for
So it's the Japanese equivalent. So it's the Japanese. Go on.
Remember, Olaf from Frozen, Japanese voice actor, got arrested because he possessed a gasp marijuana.
That would be. What was I gonna say? Yeah. So basically, that's the Japanese equivalent of one of my favorite lines from Team America.
I think it's in this the castle that they introduced the one path is correct.
Yes. I actually, mid-recording, I actually forgot what the path was, so you're gonna kind of enjoy me bumbling around trying to figure it out.
I forgot what it is.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is that that's the Japanese equivalent of one of my favorite lines from Team America. Not from Team America, from the South Park movie. Horrific violence is okay if people don't say any naughty words.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how people will see the games done today with our standards in around 20 years.
Well, okay, speculation time. What do you think will change? Do you think they'll get more restrictive or more loose?
I don't fucking know, Drova. I don't even know where I will be next year, if I have to be honest sometimes.
Well, who knows? Like, maybe far from now, stuff that we consider PG-13 will be rated G for general audiences.
Have you ever seen the MGM two shorts, A Piece on Earth and Goodwill to Man?
No.
It's around Christmas time when we're recording these, so go check them out.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is one of those shorts the one about these cartoony animals who are essentially there after humanity wiped themselves out in a big war or something? Which also has the kids singing Joy to
the War, yes. Because the remnants of the human species that they found is a copy of the Bible.
I will say this.
Oh my god, yes, I have seen that.
Hold on, yes, Pedro?
I will say this. I genuinely do dislike this particular gimmick for some of the castles, and Lost Levels loves repeating this gimmick too. And
Mazes.
see, okay. To their credit, in the Game Boy Color Deluxe version, they added an extra feature where if you go through the wrong path, it does a little buzz. Whereas if you get the right path, it will do a ta-da! So it's easier to tell.
There we go.
In the deluxe version, but yeah, in this original, there's no actual feedback on that. Oh god,
Jesus,
sprite flickering. Yeah, might as well talk about it. See, this is why in our playthrough of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES, I turned off the sprite flickering, because back in these days, when there was a lot of stuff on screen, sometimes graphics would flicker on the NES.
But sprite flickering shows that it has soul. Why would you?
Last world.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you.
Anyway, let me read what it says in the Japanese manual about Bowser, aka King Koopa. In the Japanese manual, the description is: he's holding the princess captain in the final castle. Attacks by breathing fire. You will only earn points by defeating him with fireballs. So they did say, of course, the Demon King Koopa, blah, 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 blah. That's the basic. As for the princess, it says, the Japanese version says, Princess of the Mushroom Kingdom, she possesses the power to lift Great Demon King Koopa's spell. So there you go. The princess is it has special awesome powers against demons,
I
apparently.
think only the RPGs actually, remember that both Peach and Bowser are supposed to have magical spells of some kind.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the main games, Bowser seems to be more versed in tech because he allows his castle to become this fortress of untold destruction with type of complex machinery and artillery.
That being said,
more than anything.
That being said, Word of God does say that the reason Bowser gets bigger is because he does use magic, so he still is technically using magic here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Must be the imbuement with all the comic rainbow stuff.
Yeah, that's the basic gist of it. As for the rest of the manual itself, okay, to give some credit, it's not like the manual is fully colored. But however, the Japanese manual does have some cute little illustrations that of Mario's abilities and features that don't really show up in the American manual. So once again, us Western people once again get the cheaper manuals in comparison to Japan. So
I mean, in terms of differences in manuals depending on where you live, it's better than the ones you got in Sonic CD.
Oh, definitely. If it's one of those. Well, the thing is, like we've said, the thing with Sonic CD is that again we've missed out on all those funny little doodles. Not to mention the extra story information that the Japanese manuals have. Like for example, in the Japanese manuals, they describe Knuckles as being shy around girls, which is something that the US manual didn't translate.
I guess Knuckles wasn't in the game.
Well, I guess, but still, if you're gonna, because the US manual had an entire page dedicated to Knuckles' bio and even said how his favorite food is grapes and shit like that. Might as well mention that detail while you're at it, right?
Which the movie did.
Oh yeah, it did. Well, no, I'm talking about the grapes thing. I'm talking about him being shy around girls, because that wasn't a thing in the second movie.
Matt, I was talking about the grapes.
Oh, sure. No, well, remember, the movies are clearly more using the U.S. original Sonic in the West rather than the Japanese one as a base, clearly. So that makes sense.
This section is particularly more the 8 fucking sucks because.
Fortunately, yeah, like I said, if you have Fire Mario / Luigi, it's relatively easy still. Go on.
I like how that animation, the way it was, made it just look like you were punching him. Like I know you hit him with the fireball, but it was timed just right to make it look like Mario had gotten sick of him and just
not this
him
one,
off.
but the bit before.
There you go. That's how you jump.
Stuck in a very tight space, and in general throwing a bit more hammer than normal.
It becomes even more of a problem in World 8-4, where they put a fucking hammer brother right before Bowser, And like Johnny said, do you know how hard it is to kill a hammer brother by jumping on it? And in Lost Levels it becomes even a problem because in Lost Levels they walk towards you. So it's not just that they stand in their spot throwing hammers. No, they walk towards you. Like,
Yes, yes, they do.
Jesus.
You will know the fear of God when that occurs.
Alright, last castle.
Alright, let's continue. Okay, so this castle, just like the other one, is also a maze. Fortunately, this particular maze is one that I have memorized by heart, fortunately, because you know, regardless, every time you do a playthrough of this game, you always have to go for this castle. So this is probably one of the castles that I've done the most in the various times that I've played this game over the years. So I know the exact the tubes that you're gonna, or pipes rather. Sorry, I know the exact pipes that you're supposed to go through. That being said, yeah,
There are some gray enemies.
Oh, that's because the busy beetles in the castle for some reason are gray. Yeah, I guess to reflect the fact that
the
yeah,
Goombas were gray.
yeah, the Goombas too. I guess their logic is that it's because lighting. It's an attempt to simulate lighting. I don't know. Anyway, go for this pipe here. I don't. Never mind. Actually, I forgot about. Never mind. I'm misthinking. Okay.
Oh shit! I forgot which map is supposed to go down. Ah!
Yeah, basically. Well, remember, this is 80s Mario. So at this point, we usually, when we thought of Mario voice at the time, we thought of Captain Lou Albano as so.
Oh shit! I got down the wrong pipe. I can't do Lou Albano very well.
I guess you could try going for Bob Hoskins.
Or Hotel Mario.
Oh God!
No.
Say what you want, but that guy still got a career afterward.
Yep.
What did he go on to?
Bob Hoskins.
Mr. Zurko Jova, for example,
Yeah.
from the Ratchet
That's a
Clank
thing.
game.
And here it is, the actual, real King Koopa himself, Bowser, as demonstrated by the.
The Koopa formerly known as Bowser.
And go ahead, Jova.
Yeah, he's falling because he's dead.
Thank you, Mario! Your quest is over. We present you a new quest, so push button B to select a world.
Yep, time to play
Yeah.
the game again.
Okay, that translation, much like the Zelda 1 translation, is a bit iffy. Here's what you're supposed to actually get from that. Like so. Notice the world thing. When you first complete the game, you get a level select, meaning when you're in the title screen, you can hold the B button and press the D-pad to select a world. And like I said, the game, the English translation does a poor job of communicating this. So I'm telling you that for the sake of it. But yeah, like Peach said, now we get a second quest. What is basically a second quest? Again, basically what it means is that all the Goombas have been replaced by busy beetles.
So it's a bit of a hard mode, basically.
Yeah, kind of. It's not that much of a difference. Like the only primary difference is that now Goombas don't exist. Instead, you have busy beetles, which means, of course, in tight spots it becomes a bit tougher to handle things. That being said, it's not that much of a difference. And if you complete the second quest, the game just loops again. So
basically, in this timeline, King Koopa or Bowser, whoever you want to call him, has had enough of the Koopa what did you say the name was again? The one too. Fed up with the Goombas' failures, so he went back in time and altered history so that the Goombas weren't created. Instead, it's these guys.
No, Dweebs. Remember, Bowser only travels through time when it comes to the Yoshi's Island games.
And yeah, as you can see, when you reach the top of these levels, it becomes very easy to bypass the entire levels because you just run throughout the bricks. There you go. So this is the usual path experts usually take. You know, use the warp zone to jump straight to World 4, and then later when you get to 4-2, there's a warp zone you can use to get to World 8-1.
Captain N reference that.
Exactly. So that's the basic gist of it. All right. Go on.
You know, figures, considering, you know, the Dick had basically a sort of a monopoly on video game adaptation and everything, and we bothered to have a crossover episode between Captain and Legend of Zelda. We never bothered to have one with the Super Mario Bros. Super Show.
I guess maybe the live action bits were kind of the crossovers because he was crossing over with
around-
Raptor and the like.
I think we could have just stuck with the animated bit, and that was it. I
Yeah,
guess.
that's an interesting thing about the Super Show, because usually nowadays when people like to make fun of Toad's voice, they're talking about, you know, in like the current voice that Toad has in the games. But usually,
I do hope.
go on.
Sorry. I do hope that Keegan Michael Key might be able to bring dignity back to the voice of Toad. Like, I'll be honest, I have not really liked the squeaky thing with Toad sing. It has not helped people's annoyance with Toad.
But I think
So what do you think?
Is that in the Super Show he sounded a bit like Jay Leno.
Yeah, and the thing about Toad in the Super Show is that he's just as annoying, just for different reasons. Because it's was, hey Bob, did I ever tell you that you're ugly? Like, oh God, like that's just grating.
I don't know how you get Jay Leno out of it.
That's not mentioning the fact that the personality of Toad is obnoxious.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man, I'm the fantastic fungus. Oh.
Even in general, the Pedro's reviewed a couple of episodes. There's like a Christmas episode where Toad acts as the most selfish person on the entire planet, you know, and people basically, you know, condescend him.
And yeah, if you complete the game, and yeah, if you complete the second quest, Peach just says the exact same thing, and you go for the second quest again. So, yep, that's it. There's no credits in the game.
Epic quest.
So, final thoughts, Deji.
It's a good game. Yep, that's it.
All right, Dwibs.
Oh, it's a classic for a reason. I mean, yeah, some bits and pieces of the level design haven't really aged all that well, but for the most part, it still holds up even all these decades later. And yeah, well, my favorite part of the game is the music, even if there are only like 4 tracks total.
But there are 4 great tracks that are a pleasure to listen to. So
Yeah,
mentioned
it's
these sound effects,
It's Koji Kondo, so
yeah.
yeah, I mean, although I'll be honest, the theme that plays when you're in Bowser's Castle to me is actually just more funny than anything else. And it's meant to be like intimidating, but it's like what Matt said in the SGB playthrough. It's like they ran out of time and he needed to come up with a theme, so Miyamoto started flapping his lips together. Like that. And there you go. New theme. He's told Koji Kondo, just do what I play on the keyboard, what I just did. But yeah, it's a classic for a reason, which is more than I can say for what we're doing next.
Well, before we still have an extra part where we look at the other versions, but all right, go ahead, Teo.
Sure. Like as mentioned, it's a classic for a good reason. You know, it's kind of timeless in a way. The control, it controls just what you need to do in order what you need to do. The enemy placement design feels balanced enough. You know, it's intuitive. Again, you can tell that it was engineered to be as effective as it could, even back then. But it really stands the test of time, despite the fact that there are countless, updated and new versions of it. It's kind of amazing, interesting to see, compared to, say, like the first Zelda, which instead has aged poorly in all the places. And again, also to say the sound effects and the music. I personally grew up with what we will look in the extra part, the deluxe version for Game Boy Color. But this one still holds up, so very nice. All right, next.
Java.
It's a classic. Enough said. Like, no, this game really was the bee's knees of its time when it came out. It was a game that helped restore faith in the video game market for a good reason, mind you. It was pretty well thought out, well fleshed out, and just overall good, simple fun.
Indeed.
Which, again, is definitely what helps a game when it starts on that point, and then just gets on getting better and better, as we would see with games into the future.
Indeed, but unfortunately we have one pit stop before we get to those improvements. All right. Yeah, like again, I played this game so much as a kid, and because again, like there was just even as a kid playing it, like there was always something about the game that just there's a very simple but very elegant charm to it. Because again, it's kind of hard to explain, but like because yeah, when you compare this to something like Ninja Gaiden on the NES, which is a much more cinematic type of cutscene game that has a lot of more visual appeal to it comparison to a game like this, but even still, even back in those days, like there was just something about the game that really made it work, because the gameplay was just that solid and simple to understand and simple to pick up and play, you know. So yeah, it's no wonder why it became the highest selling video game at the time, and it kept that title for quite a while before getting over the front by Wii Sports. So yeah, definitely a true classic of the platforming genre, and that's it. However, like I said, we still have some other versions and ports that were made of this game that we might as well take a look at. So tune in for that.
Damn.
See you then.